Hey everyone, ready to tackle something we all deal with? That inner voice. You know, the one that holds us back.
You mean the inner critic?
Yeah, that's the one. We're diving deep today, figuring out how to silence that critic and unlock some real confidence.
I like it, silencing the critic. You know, a lot of advice out there just focuses on surface stuff.
Like quick fixes that don't really get to the root of the problem.
Exactly. But the source we're looking at today, it's different. It's an excerpt from an article, Texto Pagado, and it's all about a mindset shift.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the first step to quiet that voice in our heads?
Well, the article says it starts by shifting your focus outward. Instead of getting stuck in your anxieties, how you're coming across to others, you put your attention on the person you're with.
So it's like less about me, and more about them.
Yeah, exactly. You become more observant, like noticing those little cues.
Cues? Like what kind of cues?
Well, like how someone's eyes light up when they're really into what you're saying, or even if they fidget when they're nervous. So it's about going beyond just the words, right? Picking up on all those unspoken things.
Yeah, you're getting it. And it's funny because when you shift your focus outward, you're not just silencing your critic, you're connecting more deeply too.
That's interesting. You know, it reminds me of this networking event I went to. I felt so awkward, so self-conscious at first.
Networking events can be tough.
Totally, but I decided to just forget about my own anxieties and really listen to the people I was talking to.
And what happened?
I actually started to enjoy myself. The conversations became, more genuine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you were present, engaged, and that comes across.
It's like giving someone a gift, the gift of your full attention. Have you ever noticed that yourself? Feeling more confident when you're truly focused on the other person.
Absolutely. You know, when you're in the moment, not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, there's a sense of calm. And that calm translates into confidence.
It's like that inner critic just chills out when you're not feeding it with all your attention. So outward focus is step one. What's next on our list?
Okay, this one might sound a little counterintuitive, but the article talks about embracing imperfection.
Wait, isn't the goal to be our best? To strive for perfection?
Of course, but the article actually says that perfection can be, well, boring.
Boring. How so?
Think about it. If someone seems too perfect, too polished, it can be intimidating.
You know, you have a point there. There's something more appealing about someone who's real flaws and all.
Exactly. Authenticity, self-acceptance, those are way more attractive than trying to be flawless all the time.
Okay, I'm on board with that. But how do we actually embrace imperfection? Any tips?
Sure. The article gives a great example. Let's say you mess up someone's name. Instead of cringing and apologizing a million times, make a joke out of it.
Like, oops, my pronunciation needs work. Can you remind me how to say your name again?
Yes. You acknowledge the mistake, but you don't let it become this big, awkward thing.
I like that. It shows you're comfortable laughing at yourself.
And that puts the other person at ease, too.
Yeah.
It creates a more relaxed vibe.
So have you ever seen someone just own a mistake with humor? Did it make them seem more likable?
Oh, definitely. It reminds us that we're all human.
That shared humanity, it's a good foundation for connections. Okay, loving this deep dive. We've got outward focus, embracing imperfection. What's the next ingredient in this confidence recipe?
It's all about cultivating presence.
Okay, being present. But isn't that just about physically showing up?
It's more than that. It's about being mentally and emotionally engaged in the moment, not lost in your thoughts.
So, like, truly being there.
Exactly. When you're fully present, you're not reliving past mistakes or worrying about the future. You're right here, right now.
It's funny you say that. I recently tried this mindfulness exercise. You know, taking deep breaths, noticing the sensations in my body, the sounds around me.
Mindfulness is a powerful tool.
It really is. It helped me feel so grounded, centered, like I could handle anything.
Because you were in the moment.
Yeah.
Not letting anxieties take over.
Right. It's like shifting your attention from those negative thoughts to, the richness of what's happening right now. What about you? What helps you feel more present?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's, now that we've got that presence, that authenticity, let's add a little fun to the mix.
Oh, fun. Like what?
The next step is all about mastering, playful banter.
Banter. Sounds a little risky.
It can be, but that's part of the fun. It's like adding a spark to your conversations. Keeps things light, engaging.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's about showing you're not too serious.
Exactly. If you can joke around a bit, tease a little, shows you're not worried about being judged.
And then confidence is attractive.
Exactly. But this is key. It has to be lighthearted, never mean.
Okay, I get it. So no roasting people.
Right. The article even gave an example like teasing someone about their pizza toppings.
Like pineapple on pizza. Seriously.
Yeah. Finding those little moments to inject some humor.
Create that playful connection. I like it. But what about people who are, a little shy about that kind of thing?
Oh, for sure. You got to read the room. Some people are more playful than others.
True.
But even if someone's not, super outgoing, you can still add a little humor. A well-placed observation, maybe a self-deprecating joke.
So it's not about being like the comedian of the group.
No, not at all. It's just about those small opportunities to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
Make things more fun. So what about you? Got any playful banter lines you could try out?
That's a good challenge. Maybe something about, I don't know, the latest meme going around.
There you go. See, you got it.
Okay, so we've got outward focus, embracing imperfection, cultivating presence, and now playful banter. What's next on our list for silencing that inner critic?
This one might resonate with a lot of people. It's about, releasing the need for validation.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think we all struggle with that. Always wanting to be liked, approved of.
It's so common. And you know what the article says? It often comes from a deeper insecurity. Like, we're not worthy unless someone else tells us we are.
So we're looking for that approval outside of ourselves.
Yeah, and it never really works. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You'll never feel truly full.
That's a great analogy. So how do we break free from that cycle? How do we get to a place where we don't need that constant approval?
The article suggests a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on, do they like me? It's about, am I enjoying myself?
That's interesting. So it's less about impressing others and more about, being present, being genuine.
Exactly. And you know what? When you release that need to impress, you become more attractive.
Really? How so?
Because people are drawn to authenticity. And that comes from within, not from someone else's approval.
It's like when you're trying too hard to be liked, it actually pushes people away.
Right. But when you're just being yourself, comfortable with who you are, that's magnetic.
It makes sense. Thinking back, when do you feel that urge to seek validation the most? Is it certain situations, certain people?
That's a great question for everyone to consider. What are those triggers for you? Knowing that is the first step to breaking free.
So we're learning to silence that inner critic, focus outward, embrace those imperfections, be present, add some playful banter, and now we're letting go of that need for constant validation. This is good stuff. What else is there?
Now that we're building this foundation of self-acceptance, it's time to explore something powerful. Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Ooh, that one can feel scary. We're always told to put on a brave face, hide our insecurities.
I know, right? But the article actually argues that vulnerability is key to real connections.
Okay, so I'm not talking about like oversharing every deep, dark secret.
No. It's more about being authentic, letting those glimpses of your true self show through.
So what does that look like in a conversation?
Well, the article gave this example. Imagine someone asks about your favorite childhood memory.
Okay, pretty standard question.
Right. Instead of some generic answer, you share a specific story, one that reveals something meaningful about you.
I see what you mean. It's about going deeper than just surface-level chit-chat.
Exactly. Sharing something a little more personal. A story about a special place, maybe a funny mishap that taught you something.
Those little glimpses into your world.
They create that intimacy, that trust. They show you're not just a facade.
And that's attractive. But I bet a lot of people worry that being vulnerable will make them seem weak.
It's the opposite. Vulnerability takes courage. It's about being comfortable enough with yourself to let your guard down.
And that confidence is what's really attractive. It's like you're saying, this is me, take it or leave it.
You got it. Owning your story.
I love that. But I know it can be daunting. So for our listener, what's one small thing you feel okay sharing about yourself? It could be a hobby you love, a funny story, just something real.
Start small and see how it feels. You might be surprised by the connection it creates.
Okay, we've covered a lot. We're focusing outward, embracing imperfections, cultivating presence, adding some playful banter, letting go of needing validation, and now embracing vulnerability. What else do we have on our list?
We've been talking about these internal shifts, like changing our mindset to quiet that inner critic.
Yep.
But how you express that confidence outwardly is important too. And that brings us to mastering nonverbal communication.
Oh, that's so true. It's funny because we often think of confidence as like, something to say too, But our body language can totally give us away, can't it?
Yeah. Nonverbal cues are huge. They can even matter more than our words sometimes.
So what are some of the things that really scream confidence? I've heard about open posture and eye contact, but honestly, I'm not always sure how to do that without feeling awkward.
It's a balance, you know? It's about being aware of your body language, but also letting things flow naturally. So open posture, for example, it doesn't mean standing all stiff with your arms crossed.
Well, yeah, that would look pretty weird.
Right. It's more about like a relaxed but upright stance facing the person you're talking to and just using gestures that feel natural.
And what about eye contact? I know it's important, but I always worry about like staring too much, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Eye contact isn't about having some kind of staring contest. It's about making a connection. Holding their gaze for a few seconds, then looking away briefly before looking back.
So it's about that back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget to smile. A genuine smile can make you seem so much more approachable.
Like you're saying, hey, I'm happy to be here talking to you.
Exactly. And you know, one thing the article brought up that I thought was interesting was touch. Obviously, we've got to be respectful of boundaries and all that, but a light touch on the arm during a conversation, you know, it can create this sense of warmth and connection.
It's like a little extra something that says, I'm engaged in this conversation.
Exactly. It's subtle, but it can make a difference.
You know what? You're making me think of a friend of mine. She's so good at this kind of thing. She always makes you feel instantly comfortable, like you've known her forever.
What is it about her?
Well, it's not just what she says, it's everything. Her smile, the way she looks at you, even a gentle touch on the arm, it all comes together to create this feeling of confidence and kindness.
It's those little things that add up, huh?
Totally. And now I bet our listeners are all paying attention to people's body language too, aren't they? It's fascinating how much you can pick up just by observing, you know?
It's like a whole other language.
Okay, so we've talked about outward focus, embracing imperfection, cultivating presence, mastering playful banter, letting go of that need for validation, embracing vulnerability, and now mastering nonverbal communication. What's next on our list for building confidence?
The next piece is all about active listening. And this is really where the magic happens, you know. When you're truly listening to someone, you're not just hearing their words, you're actually getting them on a deeper level.
I used to think I was a good listener, but then I realized I was doing that thing where you listen just to reply. You know, already thinking about what you're going to say next, instead of really focusing on what they're saying.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Our minds are always racing. But active listening is about quieting that chatter and really absorbing what the other person is sharing.
So how do we become better at that? Any tips?
The article suggests a few things. Nodding along, not interrupting and asking questions to make sure you're understanding, and then, you know, responding in a way that shows you were paying attention, reflecting back their emotions, that kind of thing.
I've been trying to stop myself from jumping in with my own stories and experiences, you know? It's like, I want to relate to them, but sometimes it takes the focus away from what they're saying.
That's so thoughtful of you. It's about letting them have their space to feel heard.
It creates a kind of safe space, you know?
And that feeling of connection can actually boost everyone's confidence.
I love that. So for our listeners, how would you rate your active listening skills? What are you good at? What could you work on?
Thinking about those things is a great way to start improving.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Outward focus, embracing those imperfections, cultivating presence, playful banter, letting go of the need for validation, being vulnerable, mastering nonverbal communication, and now we're adding active listening to the mix. What's the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to confidence?
This last one is about leading with confidence. And I don't mean like taking over the conversation. It's more about taking initiative, guiding the interaction in a way that makes everyone feel good.
You know, I used to think that being confident meant having all the answers, being the center of attention.
Right.
But I've learned that real confidence is way more subtle than that.
It's not about being the loudest voice. It's about being comfortable with who you are and then letting that guide how you interact with others. So leading with confidence might look like, I don't know, sharing a story you're passionate about or suggesting an activity.
It's about taking the reins a bit, showing you're not afraid to direct things.
Exactly. And it can be really attractive, you know? It shows that you're comfortable taking charge.
It's like saying, I'm not just going to sit back and wait for things to happen. I'm going to make things happen.
That's the energy.
I love it.
Huh.
So, listeners, here's your challenge. In your next conversation, make a conscious effort to lead. Share something interesting, suggest a topic that you love, or propose a fun activity. Just step into that role and see what happens.
You might be surprised by how much it boosts your confidence.
All right, we have covered so much ground today. We've explored 9 amazing steps to help you silence that inner critic and unlock your confidence. We talked about the power of outward focus, embracing those imperfections, cultivating presence, adding some playful banter, letting go of that need for validation, embracing vulnerability, mastering nonverbal communication, practicing active listening, and leading with confidence.
It's all about changing your mindset and then letting that shine through in how you interact with the world.
And before we wrap up, here's one last question for you to think about. If you could totally silence that inner critic, what would you do? What conversations would you start? What dreams would you chase? What incredible connections would you create?
Just imagine the possibilities.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you feel inspired and ready to silence that critic. Remember to practice these techniques and watch your confidence soar. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those conversations flowing.